All right, so a bit of a introduction to Xero. So my name is Lauren. I'm our senior account manager, and I do look after you guys nationally as well. And we also have Sarah Watts, so she's one of our senior partner consultants here at Xero as well. So the main difference between us, I kind of look after your day-to-day stuff. Sarah comes in on a consulting basis to help with any of our partner practice tools. So things like Xero Practice Manager, Xero Tax, Xero Work Papers, and financial reporting within Xero as well. So a bit of a background about Xero. We are one of the leading platforms helping small businesses. So we'll go through some stats in a moment, but at the moment in Australia and New Zealand, we're over 1 million subscribers. So about 1 million or so businesses actually rely on us to run their day-to-day. And we also utilize this exact same product for partners to be able to offer advice to their clients and run financials within there. So some history on Xero. We're now heading into year 13. So we're founded in 2006 by Rod Drury and Craig Walker. And since then have grown quite exponentially globally. So now have about 20 offices globally and about 2,500 staff as well, which is fantastic. Having a look at purpose. So our purpose is to make life better for small businesses, their advisors and communities. So essentially anyone that will assist a business in becoming more successful. So people like their advisors giving advice on their financials, their banks, any ecosystem, so any add-on products that fit into this as well. Having a look at some numbers, so 2 million subscribers globally. This is as of 30th of September 2019, so a couple of months back. We've just reported this last week. We also have some main numbers here to look at, over 700 connected apps. So these are apps that yourself and your clients can use that connect into the Xero platform and seamlessly share data between both products. And we also have 50,000 developers across our ecosystem, which is humongous. So 50,000 people working on Xero data every day to improve the way that you work with your clients. So why you would use something like Xero? We are built in the cloud. We aren't a desktop product that's moved cloud. We've always been in the cloud, and that's where we were founded. We do have continuous innovation. So currently we release about 2,500 products per year, which is humongous. And that's kind of our job, is to keep you up to date with all this sort of stuff. Connectivity, as we mentioned, between add-ons, really great performance of the platform as well, which we'll be showing you shortly. If we look at your current workflow, so most firms' current workflows that aren't utilizing a Xero-based practice, they have their practices client. So the client is operating on one of many different products that they utilize. This can be competitor products to Xero, Xero itself, spreadsheets, bank statements, a whole mess of things. And then you have the practice side. And so this data gets sent in from the client any which way via login or email, or hopefully not floppy disk still, like the picture. But what you'll get is this sent in, you'll work on the data, you'll send it back out to your client. And so what we're trying to mitigate in that sense is bringing together a single ledger. So this is one area that you and your clients will both work on at the exact same time. This means that you can work on them more frequently. So rather than waiting until after June to be able to provide advice, we'll be working throughout the year instead. So the single ledger composes both Xero Blue, which is the live product that you probably have a few clients on, as well as our practice products, which Sarah is going to talk to in a moment as well. Something that I'll quickly mention before we hand over to Sarah as well is that we do have an open ecosystem for our partners as well. So these are just a couple of them. There's about 50 or so that you can utilize for practice. But for example, I know some of your practices use BGL, for example, for CAS 360 and Simple Fund 360. So for example, they'll share a client list with us and they will automatically send data into our product. So for example, you might have a concessional cap breach for super funds. You'll find this out usually after June. And what we're doing with BGL is they will automatically send this into our product as it happens. So if this happens on the 20th of March throughout the year, they will send a notification and alert into our practice management system, letting you know that one of your clients is about to breach their concessional cap. And it means that you'll be working on your client data more frequently in the moment, rather than finding out after the end of year where they've copped a fine or gotten in trouble. Each of these all do different things. And what we will do afterwards is we'll send some information on what each of them do and how you can utilize them. But for example, there's things like document managers here. There's some data entry points. There's some reporting ones. There's ones to get paid quicker. So there's all different areas that we can assist you with in terms of your practice as a whole, not just your practice management suite. So what I will do now is hand over to Sarah, and she'll take over and give you a live demo of our platform. Just need to get out of here.
Get on my sound right. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can, thanks.
Cool.
Been muted. Can you hear me now?
Sorry, we can hear you.
Oh, you can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but your video is off. Assuming you're going to share screen.
I am. Yes,
Yep.
indeed.
Okay.
All right. Hang on. I've just seamless transitions here today. Okay. Okay, so hopefully you can see my screen. So as Lauren just mentioned, my name's Sarah Watts. I'm the partner consultant well, the only one sitting in the office today in Melbourne. But my role is around the implementation and education with Xero's partner products. So I thought today we'd have a quick talk around workflow. You've just mentioned that you don't really get too much into, I guess, the workflow side of things, but I think there'll be a few things which will still be of interest that you guys will sort of play a part in. So things like you would know whether or not staff do timesheets or not. Is that?
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
They do time. And what's the workflow as far as your process as far as a job coming into the practice and the stages of that job? Is it sort of a consistent process amongst all the offices in that, the client will come in? Can you give me an average or just an example of what it might look like when a client comes in for end of financial year?
It does depend on, of course, what they're coming in for.
Sure.
And the task allocation can be slightly different across offices where there are people who have different responsibilities. In terms of being logged and then allocated out and then documentation checked, this is really high level, documentation checked and queries and, engagement letters and all those sorts of things. If we take it up a level, there is definitely some consistency and experience across the group. It's Beautiful. Depending on how deep you want to go in terms of consistency and are there differences between offices and people completing tasks in particular roles? Yes, there is.
Yep, 100%. Is the software consistent across all practices?
No.
No? So what sort of software are the different practices using?
90% of our group use Sage Handysoft, the SQL version.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But there are some areas, APS is using, for example. So what we're looking at with looking at all of the platforms and all of the providers is coming to the end of these demonstration and the tech showcase on Thursday to be able to have strategic discussions with alignment on software and
Right.
process and integration. And so we see that as a long-term goal.
Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, cool. All right then. Well, I'll sort of talk generally over the products. If you would like I won't spend too much time in each, but if you've got questions, by all means, just interrupt me and we can answer them sort of right then and there on the spot. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, that's
Beautiful.
fine. Thank you.
Okay, so the products that we're going to take a look at today. So we're going to start off by having a look at, there'll be My Xero and Xero HQ. Now, these two products are sort of used interchangeably at the moment. We are building Xero HQ out. It's going to be a very powerful platform. However, you know, for the purposes of today, you could be in My Xero HQ. You can access your clients from both. The other product, we're not going to jump into it today, but it's Xero Work Papers. It's something, obviously, it's a work paper system. If that's something that the partners would like to take a look at, more than happy to do a demo of that one. For me to sort of go in and start working around in it, though, it would be a sort of hour and a half, 2-hour demo. So I'll sort of briefly speak over it today, but we won't actually dive into that product. But just know that that sits alongside My Xero. And of course, we have Xero Practice Manager and Xero Tax. Now, Xero Tax can be a standalone product with which, you know, you can connect up to, say, the likes of, you know, like GreatSoft, or you can have Xero Tax within Xero Practice Manager. So it just depends on what you need, but Xero Practice Manager gives you the ability to do not just tax returns, but also, you know, timesheets and job management. So we'll have a look at Xero Practice Manager today. Okay, so the blue Xero file, which you'll all be familiar with, where the client runs their business, it doesn't matter what version of Xero your client uses, it's exactly the same. There's only one version of Xero. So you might have a cash book for your client or a ledger, and it might be a very basic subscription that you're only paying, you know, $10 a month for. However, that's exactly the same subscription as if your client is using, you know, a premium 100 account. We just sort of turn off and on functionality, but very important to remember there's only one version of Xero. So the way that you utilize the partner tools, you know, all within that single ledger concept, we do our reporting in the blue Xero file. So we have report templates set up in Xero HQ and My Xero, and the staff member within the client's file will pull down the relevant report template to produce the annual financial statements, or, you know, management reports or tax planning, or whatever they'd like to do. But in this case, we're going to do an annual job. So we'll say the financial statements. The Xero work papers, the way that they work is they actually pull the balances direct from the general ledger, and they populate Xero work papers so that we can then produce the work paper pack, which is what, you know, obviously the partner or manager is going to review. Last but not least, we are going to draw the information from the Xero file into Xero Tax, and we're going to map it into our tax return so that we can automatically populate our tax return, or if it's a BAS, we can generate the BAS really quickly as well. So we're going to bring in the general ledger information to do that. And what that means is, you know, if we need to make a change later on, maybe it goes to review and it's got to come back, we've got to update values, rather than having to go into, you know, the client file and, you know, fix up, you know, an adjustment. We then have to go and fix up the financial statements, and then we have to go up and, you know, go in and update work papers, and then we have to go in and, you know, you've got the tax rec and the tax return. Instead of having to do all of that, instead the staff member is just going to go back into the client file. They're going to make the change at the source, and then thanks to the single ledger concept, we're simply going to go into the financial reports and we're just going to refresh them. We'll go into work papers, we'll hit refresh, we'll go into Xero Tax, we'll hit refresh. And we don't have the risk of any transposition errors, you know, things being written in incorrectly. We don't have to worry about, you know, any manual entry which is going to slow us down. It's just going to flow. So it's just a much faster process. Okay, so let's now jump into Xero Practice Manager. We'll start off on. Sorry guys, if I fall out like that, I just had to cough. It happens very quickly. I'll just mute myself. So hopefully you can see my screen. It's the dashboard within Xero Practice Manager. Yes? Can I get a thumbs up?
Yes.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. Thanks, guys. Cool. All right, so when you log into Xero Practice Manager, or when your staff member logs into Xero Practice Manager, it's going to be a unique view for them each time. They're going to log in, they're going to see their time summary. So the grey bar represents the number of hours I have free to do work for the day, and then the coloured bar represents the type of time. So yellow just means I've had a day off. I got green time here, which means I've got client billable time, and non-billable time just means I'm doing an administration or non-chargeable work. So time summary there, and then I've got over on the right, I've got my productivity wheel. So this is the idea of this one is that we are again keeping at the forefront of the staff members' time, productivity expectations. So on the outside we have what is our expected productivity for the week. So I've got an 80% expectation, and then the inside is my actual productivity. So this is taking into account both yesterday and today at this point, and because I haven't sort of done my timesheets for today, things are looking a little bit sad. However, they will improve as I put my time entries in. Scrolling down, I have got my important dates. So this is a 2-week rolling calendar with all the jobs, tasks, milestones, anything that I've been invited into that I need to action at a particular date is going to show up here. And this is actually a really good place to discuss the difference between Xero Practice Manager and a traditional desktop practice management system, in that Xero Practice Manager is very job-centric. So we create the job, we put our time to the job. Whereas with a traditional system, we say it's very client-centric in that the staff members can go in and they can just put time on any client that they want to. The problem with just going in and putting time wherever you want on whichever client is that, billing becomes a sort of a monthly process. At the end of each month, you've got to print all the WIP. You've got to work out, which entries belong where. Whether or not it's something we can bill out now, is this something we need to carry forward? With Xero Practice Manager, because it all goes on the job, the beautiful thing about this system is that the job actually becomes the invoice. So we don't need to worry about sort of differentiating between different types of time. The job, so the difference between these items down the bottom here, the job is the project which we're going to work on for the year, or for the client when it comes in. So the job in this case, it could be consulting work, or the example I'm going to run with today is a 2019 tax compliance job. So that's the job. Now the task, that is the service components within the job. So that might be, we need to prepare some financial statements, we need to prepare a tax return, and maybe there's a client meeting. So that's what our tasks are. And last but not least, we have milestones. So milestones are time-bound activities on our job, which have a due date that we need to be aware of. So that's what we're seeing up here on our rolling calendar. Just going to jump into the clients quickly. So this is the client list which Lauren was referring to before. So if you do have another app, so BGL, this is the information it's going to be pulling from. So I'm just going to, or pushing in some cases. Okay, so we're just going to jump into my Lama Del Rey. So this is our client page here. So up the top, we've got a picture of Lama Del Rey. I like to put that there just to illustrate the fact that I think it's really weird that you can attach a photo of your client, but should you want to, you can do that. Maybe you put their logo or something like that in there. But I can see the total amount of invoices outstanding for this client, what's overdue, and any WIP sitting on this client as well. I can see all the leads, quotes, jobs, tax returns, etc. across the top too. Scrolling down, I've got all the tax and company information on the left, and I've got all the contact details on the right. We can have clients set up in groups so that, when it comes to billing, you might have one main billing entity, but groups also allow us to have all the information for a group in the one place as well. So much like the client screen, we also have a group screen, which gives us a lot of really valuable information. Relationships, these are super important because they're what's going to allow us to share information between tax returns. So for example, if you've got a trust, then you'll want to set up the beneficiaries so that the distribution will flow directly through into the beneficiary's tax returns. So again, we don't have to manually enter any information there. Further down, within Xero Practice Manager and Xero Tax as well, you can set up custom fields. So if you're wanting to capture more information about your clients, in this case, we've asked questions about insurances, we can do that, and we can run reports on this information as well. So in this particular environment, we've got income protection, business insurance, whether or not the client has a current will. So these are all questions which we've got answered here in the hope that our accountants, bookkeepers can have better conversations with clients when they come into that meeting at year end. And again, also, if you've got different business services arms, you can run reports on this so that you can, I guess, if you've got an insurance broking arm or mortgage broking arm, you can tailor specific correspondence. Also, we've got favourite teams, that sort of stuff. I know I've got a partner in Perth that likes to put down what the client had to drink last time they were in the office. Just so they can, when the client comes in next time, they can have that ready for them. Okay, so what we're going to do now, I've actually already set up a job for this client. I'm just going to use the global search in the top left-hand corner, but I could just jump into jobs if I wanted to. This global search is available from any screen within Xero Practice Manager, and you can jump really quickly through to leads, quotes, jobs, invoices. So I can just come in here and select the job. Okay, so this is the job I have been allocated to today. Now, I have notifications set up, so I actually received an email letting me know that this job was ready for me to start working on. So I've come in here and I have seen that I've got some milestones here. I need to make sure I'm aware of those. Nothing sort of gets done before, everything gets done before the due date. As I'm completing those, I can just tick them off, and as you can see, they're just rolling off my rolling calendar. I've got so within this job, I've got my 3 tasks here. So annual financial statements, tax return, and client meeting. And I've actually got a little estimated time that it's going to take us to prepare each of those as well. There are a heap of ways to enter time into Xero Practice Manager. I can do it from the dashboard. I can do it from the timesheet entry. I can do it from the global search. But we've also got this little stopwatch here, which I quite like. And what this allows me to do is if I just click add, I can actually just start a clock. So where people find this really handy is, a client suddenly calls them up, interrupts, whatever they were doing, they can have this stop clock going just in the background. I'm just going to search for the job that I'm working on and just apply it to the relevant task, and I'm just going to click save and keep recording. So the first thing I need to do for this client is to prepare the annual financial statements and tax return. So as I mentioned before, looking through the slides, we're going to prepare the annual financial statements from within the client's blue Xero file. So I'm going to jump across to my Xero. As I mentioned before, I can jump between my Xero and Xero HQ. I can access the information I require from both. Doesn't matter which one you use. And I'm going to jump into my sole trader, Lama Del Rey. The report template saved up at Xero HQ can be accessed by going to Accounting, Reports, and then all I have to do is jump across to the Advisor Reports, and they'll be sitting here ready for me to use. At the moment, for your Xero clients, these reports or report templates are already available for you to use. So they're sitting there ready for you to make a few little changes so that you can access them, or you can already access them here, but so that they're efficient when you run them. If you are interested in using the reports, or the report template, sorry, please let Lauren or myself know, because we have a 1-hour webinar recording, which will take you through exactly how to set those up. And I've even got a checklist for you as well. So there's just a few changes that you need to make so that they run really smoothly down at the client level. So if I just click into my template, so we're running a sole trader today. So I come in on my trading statement. Essentially, there are a number of reports in this template. So trading statement, income statement, balance sheet, notes, owner's declaration, and compilation report. These are all run over my client's data. So I would come in here, check that everything looks correct. My balance sheet, income statement is all presenting as I would expect it to. That my notes all look good. And then once I'm happy that everything is correct, I will mention here in the owner's declaration, you'll notice that a lot of client-specific information and on the compilation report, our practice-specific information is pulling through because we've set up our templates effectively at the template level. So every time I run this down to the client, it's a really smooth process. I'm actually happy with this, so I can just go ahead and publish my financial statements. Ready for our the partner or manager to review. So in publishing, I'm applying my title name, I'm applying the title color, so you can select the color. You can also bring in your own logo as well. Contents page there, so I can edit my contents page if I need to. Once I'm happy, all I have to do is click save. Now, notice that it will by default remove the decimal places. However, if you would like to show them, you can do so. Okay, and if I just click into my annual financial statements, I can export these to PDF, ready to send out to my client. And if I was using the Xero work papers in this case, I could in fact take the link, if I just click back here, I could in fact take this link and paste that into my work papers so that the partner could click on the link from the work papers and open up the reporting directly into the client's Xero file. Or I could just attach the work papers, attach the PDF of my financial statements into the work papers. So it's a very, very quick overview of how the reporting works in Xero. So if I now jump back into my Xero Practice Manager, I've actually finished doing my annual financial statement preparation now. So I'm just going to hit the stop clock there. Now, if I do need to edit this, I just can click over the top and I can just make the change like so if I need to, and I can save that. And you'll notice actually, as I do that, if I just refresh my screen, I've got a budget, a time budget for how much I can spend on each of my tasks here. I was given 10 hours and I've just come in at 7 hours. And I can see that I've got 3 hours remaining. You can actually see that from the job manager. You've got a really high level overview of your job's total time budget and the percentage that's been used. So if I'm a manager, I'm the practice manager, or I'm the partner, they can run their eyes over all the jobs which are currently in and see exactly what percentage of the time budget has been used up on those clients. We're now going to have a look at preparing our tax returns. So to prepare a tax return, we do that from within the job as well. I'm just going to hit New Return. And I'm going to create one for Lama Del Rey. Now, if Lama Del Rey had a relationship set up, I would also be able to create the tax returns for the related entities from within the one job. Now you'll see here it's retrieving the ATO data. Possibly it's going to be interesting. Should have ticked that. We'll see how we go. Oh, okay. I've made a mistake. So usually what would happen, because we are in a demo environment, so bear with me. Just go back to my job. Now, I should mention I have a very high level of access, so I'm able to access anything within this Xero Practice Manager. I can delete forms, I can add them, I can do all sorts of stuff. But depending on the level of access that a staff member can have or should have, you can limit them to what they can and can't do. So if you don't want people deleting returns like I've just done, you can stop that. Okay. So I'm just going to remove this retrieve prefill PLS and I'm going to hit save. So the reason I did that is just because this is the demo environment. I'm not allowed to hook up directly to the ATO, obviously. So this is just going to bring through some information I've got sitting in the background. Okay, so what do I mean by retrieving the PLS? Previously, you would have had to go into the ATO portal, you would have had to download the pre-filling report, and you would have had to manually key that into the tax return, or if you slightly more tech savvy, you would have imported that into the tax return. So you didn't have to manually key the information in. Xero Tax hooks up directly to the ATO portal so that information directly flows into the tax return and populates it. So you no longer need to manually key that information in. So that's why we're seeing values already in here. So we'll take a look at how that comes in just a second. Before I jump in and do anything else, I'll just sort of highlight the different areas that we have here in the tax return. So I've got all the main areas within the tax form. I can add a schedule or a worksheet. I've got a couple of ATO warnings here, letting me know that there's some information I need to populate. We have our progress bar that's letting me know that this is currently in draft. I need to sort of work on this return, complete it, or finish it off, and then once I'm happy that it's ready for review, then I can complete it, and then obviously it can go off to be reviewed, and it just sort of goes through all the different stages there until we lodge it. One very handy feature that we have here also is the ability to suspend a return. So if a client has a huge payable, you don't want them lodging till 15th of May, then I can suspend the return so that nobody accidentally lodges it. Then what will happen on the 15th of May is that it will unlock automatically, and you'll be able to lodge those, or file them as we now call them, in bulk. We can also add notes to this front page as well. So we have got a history running down the bottom here. So any notes will sit there. Okay, so we talk about being able to bring information through from not only the ATO portal, but also from our client's general ledger. So to do that, I'm just going to hit our little kebab in the top right-hand corner, and I'm going to hit import from Xero. In the first year, you just need to map the client's GL summary to your to the specific labels in the tax return, and then every year after that, all you'll have to do is click import. The only exception to that is if a new account is added within the client's blue file, you will need to map that in the first year. Okay, so all I need to do is come in here, and I'm going to just put this to other business income at the moment, and obviously got a few new accounts this year, and I'll put this to other expenses. And because this is a sole trader, I'm just going to put the balance sheet items to do not import, like so. Just refresh my page. Oh, sorry guys. I can actually, I made this difficult for myself because I can filter up the top here by just non-primary production. made it much easier for me. We'll go like so, import, and I'm just going to import that in, and that's done. And now that those accounts have been mapped, they are forever mapped for us. All right, so let's take a look at how that information has come in. We've got a really good search function up the top here, so I can start typing in interest, and it's going to bring in any mention of interest within the return. We're just going to have a look at our gross interest. So item or label number 10, I can see that I've got 2 items which are making up the value here. So I'm going to click on that one, and straight away I can see that I've got information which is pulled through from the ATO portal. Now I cannot manually enter that, and that is to ensure the integrity of the data. And it's the same with the Xero data down here. It means that whoever is reviewing this return can be 100% sure that as long as what's in the ATO is correct and what's been done in the Xero Blue file is correct, then this is all going to flow through correctly, and I don't have to worry about any errors due to manual intervention. While we're talking about review, I do also want to show you the review tool that we've now got up the top here. If I select that, what's going to happen is that underneath each of our values or each of our labels, anything that had a value in it last year is going to show up highlighted orange. So I can see that there's 2 items this year, there was 2 items last year, and I can see not only the total value that was included at item 10 last year, but I can even see the schedule information that makes up those values as well. So I can see exactly where it's come from. And I can even go one step further and actually click on this interest income, and that's going to open up the trial balance in the client's Blue Xero file so that I can see exactly what makes up that amount. So you don't have to look far to sort of work out where the information is coming from. Very, very handy, especially if you're reviewing. If you do use something that I used to rely on when I was when I used to do tax returns many moons ago, I would actually use a comparative report. So to be honest, these days I'm really just solely pretty much relying on the review tool. However, if you do want a nice neat report that gives you a summary of each for the year, you have got the comparative report like so. So that is the tax return. And like any software, you need to be able to validate it. If there are errors, then you'll need to click through to the error and make the change. So I can say, yes, that was all fine. Tax code, like so. Validate. And I just need to go through and actually I could probably do that really quickly. It's been a while since I've completed a tax return, so we might do that. What else have we got? Scrolling down. Again, I've got all those values which have come through from my general ledger that's populating my PH schedule. And if I just quickly come up here, all about the power of short keys. So I'm just going to Control C there, Control V there, like so. I validate that, I now have no errors. Awesome. Okay, so I can now come up here and I can complete the return, and that is now ready for the partner to review. With the work papers, if you're sort of doing it all online, I'm not sure what you're using currently, but you can include the URL, same as when we were looking at the financial statements. You can include the URL into the work papers so that the partner doesn't have to click through and try and find the correct tax return or financial statements. They can just click on the URL and take them directly to where they need to be. So very, very handy. Now, I thought what I would do just before, oh, where am I? Lost my slides. Do you know what? We can just talk about it. So with, there are a few changes which are coming through at the moment. The first one, which is going to be absolutely brilliant, is we have automatic notice of assessment coming through. So a lot of firms are still receiving paper notice of assessment, or they're having to manually, they're downloading it themselves from the portal. So with our, I guess with the update that we're bringing in, we actually have the ability, if I jump over to my filed tab, so I can see here, I have the ability to add in notice of assessment information. So at the moment, you have to manually put that in. However, with the update, what's going to happen is that this is actually going to automatically pull the information directly from the ATO portal. So you no longer have to manually enter in that data. And it's also going to highlight at this level, if it's come in and everything's fine, no worries. But if it's received with variances or if there's any abnormalities that you need to be aware of, it's going to show up directly here without you having to manually put that information in. We are looking at releases down the track where this information is actually going to populate a letter for you as well. And so you're not going to have to prepare a letter to go out to your clients, letting them know that, everything was fine, or that, maybe everything was not too bad, but there were a few variances. It's going to prepare that letter so you don't have to do that. You can just send it directly out. So that is the notice of assessment, and I can see here, love the updates that Xero gives us. So new activity statement interface is now available. What else we got? Oh, and our pre-lodge feature as well is there. So if there are new features, Xero will let you know at the top. We're always rolling those out behind the scenes. I guess I'm trying to think what else I'd like to show you in here. Probably the last stage of I'll just jump back into the job itself. The last stage here would be we'll probably prepare, I'll just jump into our tax compliance job again. So I've now prepared my tax return. I've done my annual financial statements. I do need to actually put some time down for my tax return. Again, I have a very high level of access, so I can put time to anyone, should I choose to. And I can hit save. I should probably put notes in there. Once I've finished putting all my time to the job, it's been completed, we have the ability to send out tax returns at the moment for e-sign. So you can send that out via e-sign, or if you're wanting to collate the financials and the tax return, we are at the moment working on document packs, which would allow you to send that all out at once and invite in, or we would invite in the relevant people for electronic signature, so that you just send it out, they electronically sign it on their device and then send it straight back. So a really seamless process there. I think the last thing that we'll take a look at, because I know I am very much running out of time, I'm quickly going to jump over to the financial tab. Now, I'm not sure who is responsible for invoicing in your practice. I find a lot of the time it's the practice manager will invoice, but where the practice manager has a little bit too much on their plate, they might get the individual accountants to do it. In Xero Practice Manager, it's really easy because all our time relating to the job is on that job. So all I need to do is jump across. I'm going to do a new final invoice. I'm going to do a quoted estimated time and cost invoice. And my job was actually set up, or my job template that I've used to populate the job was set up in a way which is deployed, I guess, the relevant wording within the invoice. So I've chosen, so the name of my job, we'll start at the top. Name of the job is 2019 Tax Compliance. The description is attendance to the provision of accounting services for the year ended 30 June 2019. So it was a bit of a strange description on my job, but it makes sense now that we're invoicing because it's actually that introductory sentence on my invoice. Down in my tasks, I have those 3 tasks that I previously had, except now I've got some wording there. So up within my settings, I've actually set up my default billing paragraphs for when I do an invoice, and these tasks actually form the basis of our quotes as well. So if you wanted to do a quote up for a client, the tasks become your scoping paragraph. So this is just one of many workflows that we can choose to use. So that's all set up. I don't need to worry about the wording or the spelling or the grammar. I know that's all been done up at practice level for me. That's all perfect. So I'm just going to hit approve. Now that invoice has now been deployed directly into my blue Xero file. So if I just change my organization quickly, so this is more from a practice management viewpoint now. Okay, so I can jump into, so my practice is called Bondi Blue Accounting. And I can simply jump into my invoices, open up my invoice like so, just choose a branding theme, no line amounts, and I'm going to hit approve. Now, a lot of people ask me, why don't I just invoice out of XPM, print it off there and send it out? The reason that I push it through into Xero and then send it out of the client, send it to the client out of Xero, is that we just have many, many more options and beautiful functionality available to you within Xero. So I, from within Xero, can email this to the client. Within the email, there's going to be a link, and that link is in fact this link here, and it's going to take me to the online invoice for this client. So client will log in, they can see this, they can see exactly what they're up for, and then all they have to do, if I've got a payment gateway set up, is click pay now, and they'll enter in their credit card details and you'll get paid immediately. So we love the online invoicing because we do find that it cuts down debtor days significantly. Another couple of reasons for invoicing out of Blue Xero is that we have, we've got invoice reminders, so that will automatically go out to your clients. You can tailor them as to, the how often or the frequency that they go out and the wording when they do go out. And also you've got repeating invoices as well. So if you've got any clients on fixed fee arrangements, rather than having to do an invoice up for them every month, you can set up a repeating invoice and that's just going to go out to them automatically. So that is a very speedy overview of our Xero partner products.
Excellent.
How did you find that?
Good, and there's certainly quite a vast range of capabilities that Xero can offer, which is great. Thanks so much, Sarah and Lauren. We don't have any questions. You'll get the more in-depth ones from the guys on Thursday.
That's fine.
So thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it, and we look forward to. I look forward to meeting you in person in a few days.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good day.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.